Well, I'm excited to talk to Lindsay Thompson today. Lindsay is a colleague. She actually teaches with me. She teaches second grade, same as me. She's right across the hall. Even right now, she's right across the hall, which is pretty fun. Lindsay has been teaching. This is her second year, though you would think it's her 15th year. She's very good with her job. She's very good with her students. She brings a lot of knowledge to our job and a lot of fun to our job. And so I thought it'd be cool to get to talk with Lindsay. And as always, the very first thing I like to say is welcome. And what are you enjoying about education right now?
Hi, I am enjoying the community that teachers have built for themselves. I know anytime I have a question or I need an idea or I'm struggling with a student, I can just get on Google one click away and ask. And there's, millions of teachers that have put their expertise and even done all the work of creating things. And it's nice to be able to just get on and get whatever I need quickly, where I know that has not always been the case, and the village has not always been strong. So I've been enjoying that these last couple of years.
Yeah, that part I think is so much fun right now. In the evolution of the 22 years I've taught, we didn't have TikTok. You didn't have Instagram. There, those things were like TikTok was not around that I'm aware of, but like Instagram, Facebook, those things were there, but there was not the community at all. You could Google things. We had Mailbox Magazine. That was pretty cool when you subscribed to Mailbox Magazine. Yeah, you don't know what that is?
No.
Oh, see, yep, yep, that's what shows my age. You'd get a magazine, a subscription, and it would have worksheet ideas in it. And they eventually got to where you had some links you could go online for the internet because the internet wasn't new, but
Yeah.
you had that option. So yeah, having that community, whether it's in your building, it's online, it's watching other people, just you can get so much. How cool is that?
Yeah, I actually had to like ban myself from TikTok for a little while because I was like going down rabbit holes of all of these really great ideas. And it was almost like hurting me because I kept thinking, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And you can't do it all. And
Mhm.
so I had to stop for a little while to kind of, get back into I'm already doing good things and I don't need an idea for everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think about that with one of our other colleagues we just talked to last week. I can't remember if you were with me when we talked about it, or with somebody else. But anyways, she was saying she had to finally limit what she did on social media because it ended up becoming so much more of her identity than she wanted it to. Not that, I mean, we all want to be teacher. I love my job. I will do teacher stuff all the time. I love it. But sometimes you're like, oh, that's all it becomes. Then and you're like, well, I like the fashion stuff once in a while too. Or I'm a big cooking person, so I want the teaching stuff. I want the cooking stuff. I want the home improvement stuff. I want to see all that stuff, not just
Yeah,
teaching.
mine was stuck on baby and teaching. And I was just spiraling about things like, oh, I need to do this right now because it's on social media,
Yeah.
rather than, really thinking about, um, do, I don't need to do everything. And so sometimes those ideas are fun, but if you're already doing something that's perfectly acceptable, then you don't need to go down the rabbit hole.
Right, right. But I think that's great to recognize too. The wealth of information we have out there, the wealth of support that isn't necessarily tied to our professional learning or building professional learning or district professional learning. It's our own. It's what we want to learn as teachers, which I think is something really, really powerful. But also recognizing it's okay that we're not doing it all. And I
Yes.
think that's really cool too. Um, do one thing and do it well, then take something else on. Like, I think that's really powerful. But something that I think is really cool about you as a teammate and as a friend is watching you in relationships with students. That I my the cornerstone of my teaching career, of my philosophy of teaching, is relationships first, everything else second. And I got that from somebody. I didn't make it up. I can't remember who it was, but relationships are so important. So to watch that in you as a new teacher, I think is really cool. And I'm just curious, like, why is that so important, or how did that become so important to you, or what is it that you see about relationships being so important that is how you operate every day?
Yeah, I actually graduated, from high school, how many ever years ago, or I mean from college, sorry, not high school, from college. And I didn't go into teaching right away, but I was teaching at a dance studio and I was there for 8 years. And nobody had to tell me that it's important to build those relationships with students. But I just naturally was very good at it, and kids would gravitate towards me even when I was younger. And I would go to like my dance team parties and stuff. I always had the little kids with me, and everybody just, I felt approachable. Like I felt like kids always were coming towards me. And then when I was teaching at that dance studio, I kind of became the teacher that kids came to ask for help, even if I wasn't teaching them that year. They trusted me, and I just kind of developed those relationships as much as I could, knowing that they won't learn if they don't, if they know I don't like them, which is something you said when I first met you. You were like, kids don't learn from people who don't like them. And so that just solidifies it even more, that you got to find something to like about them, something to connect with, something to make them invest in you. You have to invest in them first. And that's just always been very important to me ever since I, started this career.
Yeah, I'll give that person credit. That was Rita Pearson. Kids don't learn from people they don't like. And we can fake it, she says, and I'll say this, and I will tell anybody till I'm blue in the face. Teachers can be great actors or actresses. She says that. She's like, you're going to have kids where you're like, oh my goodness, I cannot take one more day. I'm going to go crazy. You have some pumpkins that really test your limits in your, as a teacher and as a human. I mean, we're human too. You have to find something, because oftentimes those are the ones that by the end of the school year, you love them to pieces. You love them all, and they all have great, unique things about them. But those ones that really challenge you in how you respond to them, I think build that really deeper connection with the teacher. So that's a Rita Pearson thing, which I love her. I love her. Sadly, she's no longer with us. But yeah, I love that you said that. What are some things that you, even this school year, because I know you have a couple pumpkins this school year that test some boundaries. What are some things that you have found successful in helping?
So the first month or so of school, I typically spend a lot of my mental time thinking of every single student as an individual and finding at least one thing that I can connect with them, I can like about them. And so typically that's like my mantra all year long. When those particular students are really testing me, I just have to stop and remind myself, like, first of all, they're 7 and 8. And then I am really just telling myself, like, what was that one thing about them that is extremely likable? And then I connect with them on that to try to turn that, maybe the negative behavior, the unwanted things. I try to turn it around and let them know that, like, I still connect with you. And even if I'm seeming frustrated with you right now, I still like you. And I think, some days are harder than others. Some days I'm like, okay, I'm ready for spring break. But they will be the ones that I will probably miss at the end of the year. I'll be like, oh, they're going off, and I will miss them. And we really connect. Some things I do also is like, if I'm having a really hard day, after, when we have like lunch and recess and we've had a little bit of a break away from each other, I will pull those particular students up and we will play a game or have a conversation about something outside of school, just to kind of spin that negativity into some positive to get through the rest of the day. And I have always been a huge supporter of starting with a clean slate. And it's not just each day, it's like each minute. Like if we've had a hard reading lesson in 20 minutes, I'm going to try to forget that hard reading lesson happened, and we're going to start fresh with whatever's coming next. And that really helps.
Yeah.
So starting
and I think too, one of the things I think about that I know is something I have done myself, I have seen you do, is we own our behavior as educators too. I own my behavior in front of my students. I remember us having a conversation about that, where you apologized to a student.
Yep.
Because we're human, we make mistakes too. They need to see that. They need to see how we process through that. That's a huge learning thing for them. But they also get to see that, my teacher means well, and they really do have a caring heart for me. So owning it, like, I have had to step back and say, I am so sorry. I am a little crabby today. I'm a little growly today. And here's maybe, and I have to like tell them why I'm feeling the way I am. So they get to hear that and see that. And I can tell them ways that maybe it would help me if it's a whole class thing or if it's just an individual student. If
Mhm.
I'll let you actually explain that part because I think that it was really a powerful thing that you talked about at lunch the other day when
Mhm.
you said sorry, like
Yep.
what that looked like.
Yeah, I had noticed that I had been nitpicking on a particular student, saying his name over and over and over again, and just kind of pointing out everything that he shouldn't have been doing. And it was stressful, and it was straining on our relationship. And so I actually pulled him up and to my table privately. I think it was like early in the morning during arrival, and I just said, "Hey, I've been saying your name a lot, and I'm really sorry." And I just told them, I was like, I had been getting really stressed about things, particularly your behavior, and I was taking it out on you. And I said, there are things that I didn't really need to point out that you were doing. And I need to take a step back and remember that you're going to correct things on your own. And I don't need to point out every single thing. I don't need to say your name 100 times a day. And so I promised him that I was going to try to be better about doing things more privately, like maybe a tap on the shoulder, or making sure that I'm just close in proximity so that he remembers what the expectations are. And I told him that I would not say his name 150 times a day, and just only ask him to fix the things that are really distracting or we're really having a hard time. And we worked together on strategies to help us, like, if you can't focus on the carpet rather than blurting out, let's think of a strategy we can use that's not distracting the rest of the class and me as a teacher. Because I feel like what I was struggling with was that his behaviors were distracting my teaching, and I felt like I was having to stop every 3 seconds in a lesson to ask him to stop, and the other kids were like missing out on things, and that was what was frustrating me. And so then I was getting increasingly more
Yeah.
annoyed with him. And so apologizing though really turned it around, and it helped him see, he knew that his behaviors weren't great, but he knew that I also had taken it a little too far. And so we were able to, push forward in a more positive way
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah. And rather than break that bond that you worked so hard to create, because again, it's March and you've worked so hard all year. And then in that moment, that could have torn him down a little bit. Now we're about holding kids accountable.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
that's plain and simple. But I love that you took that time to say, "Look, I'm sorry. That was
That
me."
was me. Yep. It wasn't you, it was me. And we talked about how I tried really hard not to frame it in, I'm sorry, but you were being, not making good choices,
Mhm.
because then that still puts the blame on him. And I wanted him to see how we could work together to just have more positive days at school. And he had expressed to his mom that he was feeling really stressed at home, at school, and wasn't really wanting to come to school because he was getting in trouble a lot. And so that conversation helped all of us. And I think this past week before spring break we had a really great week. But I was going to say, when we were when you were talking about before I explained what happened, I was also thinking about a situation that happened. He's not the only kid that I have that relationship with and that I've had to apologize for.
Mhm.
And I'm just really trying to teach a lot of these kids how to process their feelings and be able to verbalize when they need something or when something has upset them. And I have another little girl that I actually haven't told you this story yet. She was doing something on Thursday, which was our early out right before spring break. It was the third day of conferences, and we were right in the middle of our spring party. And she was like over here trying to talk to me, or I don't even know what she was doing, but I was like, please go back to your seat. And she was like, but I want to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, go back to your seat. And a little bit later, she brings up a sticky note to me, which is kind of how we communicate. She's very needy for attention. And so instead of coming up to me and wanting to talk all the time, I'm always telling her, like, you need to write me a note on a sticky note and I will talk to you when I have time. And it's really worked for us. But she brings up a sticky note and I read it and it says, when you were mean to me, it made me sad. And so then I pulled her up and I was like, I'm sorry that it seemed like I was being mean. I did not mean to, say it in a mean tone or anything. And I'm like, I really just needed you to go back to your seat so that I could finish what I was doing at my table. But it really made me proud, though, that she was able to say, like, that reaction you had hurt my feelings. And then we talked about it, and that I felt like that was a really good moment for us.
Yeah. That what a powerful thing. I think of that. You can be mad. It's what you do with it that matters.
Mhm.
And that includes adults.
Oh yeah.
Because they're listening, they see it, and letting them experience, or letting them see our emotions and how we then handle the emotions, whether in a good way or a not so good way. Like if we have raised our voice or if we've had an unkind tone, when we fix that, there's power in that. They get to see that again. We live the statement. We can be mad. It's what we do with it that matters.
Yeah.
And our mad affects people. Our emotions can affect other people. Can we have emotions? Sure. Can we have big emotions? Yep. But we also have to be mindful that how we respond to those big emotions affects other people, not just us.
Yeah, and that's something I'm trying to teach my group in particular a lot this year, is that you can have your feelings and you can feel them. That's fine. And every altercation that we have where I have to step in to help kids, figure out their problems, every single altercation, I'm saying it's okay for you to be upset about this. I lead with that for every time we have an issue. It's okay for you to be frustrated. It's okay for you to be sad about that. And then we go into, but it's not okay for you to push them or to scream in their face or, whatever the negative thing that they did. And I have been leading with that all year. It's okay to feel that way, but this is how you need to, and us modeling that behavior and that process and using the meta moment. Really, I think helps them see like, oh, it's okay. And also that it's okay to make mistakes. Like, yep, I was frustrated. I handled it inappropriately. I'm sorry. I'm going to do better now.
Yeah. That was not a big thing. Excuse me. When I started teaching, relationships were still important. We talked in college, we talked about how relationships were important too, but it wasn't the thing. It was mostly the academic side. But there's certainly been a shift in the emotional side, just because we've got kids with more heightened emotions. We as adults, our emotions get heightened. And I like that we have taken that time to slow down and say, school is not just about reading, writing, and math. We're also teaching them how to handle big situations. And I think it's so powerful now because they're having to work together. They work together all day. They're in the same room. We just came from, we've had some nice weather in the last week, but we had weeks of indoor recess. Oh my goodness.
That was very hard for my group.
Yeah. They're all in the same room all day together. They get on each other's nerves. How do we handle that? And if we don't have a good relationship with them as a class, and if we haven't taught them how to respond to those behaviors, I just think that's a disservice to your class and your students. And they need to see that where we make mistakes. Again, furthering that relationship. So you also did a lot of community building things that you were pretty excited about. You spent some time, was that after spring or winter break that we came back and you focused on?
Yeah, our class was really struggling with self-control. And we have built into our schedule some, we call it behavior win time, where you do your social emotional learning as needed in the morning. And so rather than do a fun morning meeting game, I planned out some lessons that were directly related to some things that we were struggling with. And the first one was self-control. And it came to me because I was thinking about how these kids get told all the time, you need to have more self-control. You need to control yourself. You need to control your body, control your voice. And I'm like, do they even know what that means? They're 7 and 8. They haven't been alive that long. And I know that we teach them sit on the carpet and crisscross applesauce, in kindergarten. They learn how to sit and they learn how to walk in line. I'm like, but do we ever really explain what it means to control yourself? So I did a lot of really fun read alouds, like that one where it's Danny's mouth is a volcano, or is that a thing? I don't remember what it's called.
My mouth is a volcano.
My mouth is a volcano, yeah. And then what would Danny do, or what should Danny do? That was one we did, and we talked about how your choices and your actions affect other people. They affect you. They affect your day. You get to decide how your day is going to go. And so if self-control is every time you go to make a choice, is that choice going to help me have a good day, or is it going to cause things to become negative or things for me to not have a good day? And we also talked a lot about, because sometimes my kids, especially the ones that were tending to get into trouble a lot, they would struggle because they would get, and I actually have one that this is a big deal right now. They get reprimanded or redirected one time, and it just makes their whole day go downhill from there. And so we talked a lot about how making one bad choice it's okay, fix it and turn your day around. And then guess what? We won't even remember that this thing happened. By the end of the day, we're going to forget because we turned it around, and now we can have a positive day. And then on top of that, we did a lot of practice with one of my favorite activities we did was with bubbles. And we did around where I was blowing bubbles, and only half the kids could pop the bubbles. Everybody else had to just sit there while the bubbles were floating around them and while their friends were popping them. And it was very hard for some of them to watch a bubble, and you would see them, like a bubble would go by their face and they would like try to lean forward, and I'm like, nope, that's not self-control. Self-control is not popping the bubbles because you were told not to pop them. And then we switched so that the other half could pop the bubbles. And then we did one where nobody could pop them. And it was amazing to see them kind of internalize this idea of like, self-control is not doing something even when you really want to, even when your brain is urging you to do it. And when there's temptations and stuff like that, like that self-control is not doing it. And I think that has really helped. And what we really did it for was for our specials classes, because they get stars. And one of the stars is for self-control. And my class is losing self-control every time. And so I was thinking, when they hear us say, you lost your self-control today, or you didn't have good self-control, what does that mean to them?
Right.
And so regardless of how they are doing better in specials like lately since that happened, but mostly I just want them to gain something from me teaching, like explicitly teaching what it looks like to have self-control.
Yeah.
And I think that community building really did help us as a whole. And there were some kids in my class, some of my kids who, the ones that they're never doing anything wrong. They're always in their seat. They're always being a good role model. They were getting pretty frustrated with the other half of the class that was kind of taking some of their privileges away, because the class, especially in specials, it's a whole class thing. And they were getting really frustrated with them. And that community building, that helped our whole class build a community.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is something that I'm excited to try a little more of next year. I could do it this year too, because my class certainly, I've had 2 student teachers this year, and although they've both done very well, that does uproot your class a little. Yep. Yeah, it uproots your class a little bit. So I think even coming back after spring break, I could try some of those, especially with self-control again, so that going back to the relationship part, I'm not nitpicking at certain things. I'm not, I'm explaining why we're wanting this, or what is the effect of this behavior on our whole class or on other people, so that they get to see that, because there's a lot of power in that, in building and keeping those relationships. And so, yeah, I have enjoyed this conversation, because I think relationships are so incredibly important. Are there any last minute little things that you?
Not really. I just keep building relationships with those kiddos, because they're going to remember. They don't remember learning triple digit addition and subtraction in 2nd grade, but they are going to remember when we played our games during morning meeting, and I let them share about their spring break, and I talked to them individually about things that they liked outside of school, and they're going to remember that part.
I'll say I remember a couple of middle school, high school teachers that stand out. I remember all of my elementary teachers.
Yeah, me too.
And I remember
if they were a positive or a negative in my elementary school.
Yep, I was just going to say the same thing. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I hope to get to talk to you. Of course, I get to talk to you every day. We eat lunch together. We get to talk all the time. I know this is a very passionate part of your educational experience, is relationships. But I'm excited and hope we get to chat again. And with that, remember that this is just the ramblings of of 2 tired teachers who are just trying to survive. We're on spring break right now.
Yes. We're a little less tired.
We're a little less tired, yep. But we're on spring break. We have that last school year. There's 47 school days. We have 47 school days left to connect with these kiddos. And so with that, say goodbye. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks for having me.